Hey friends, Sergio here from Rise to the Sky. It's a day after the release of my last album, 2 Years of Grief. It's my 7th full-length album that I released under Rise to the Sky. Those who know me and who follow my work know that I have another project called Winds of Tragedy, which is more like a black metal project, depressive black metal. And then I have a new project too that's called My Dearest Wound. Probably you saw in some place I put a message or something like that said that I was gonna try to focus more on those projects from now on, and I want to talk a little bit about that and about the whole grief series and all, this journey that I've had with Rise to the Sky for the last, I don't know, it was like 4 years or something like that. A little bit about each album and just to give you more insight on what the whole series of albums talks about and the purpose and everything. So I thought I made a video and show you the products and everything, so that's gonna be the main topic of this video. So let me start with the last album. I won't start with the first, I'll start with the last, which is the one that I released yesterday, and it's called 2 Years of Grief. And most of you already know that my father passed away a couple of years ago on January 2021, and it was super unexpected. It was something that nobody was expecting, even though we were on the pandemic and everything, but it was just something sudden and like very shocking to everyone in my family and to everyone. So at that point I started writing music. That was about 2 years ago, and this is like the last album that talks about that topic. I wrote 4 albums on that topic and how I went through it, and this is the last one. The first one is Per Aspera ad Astra, and I'm gonna mention some things about that later. But the thing about this album, just let me talk about it briefly. It's released through Meuse Music Records and my own label called Tragedy Productions. It's a digipack. There's also a vinyl version that's on the factory right now. It should be ready around August or something like that. But this is a really nice, this is a very nice edition. It's a digipack, 4 panels, maybe you can see there. It has a cover made by artist Natalia Drepina. She's also the model on the cover. She does the photography and the modeling. She also made a video for the first single, which is called Funeral for My Home. It also comes with a booklet with, more pictures from her and stuff from her. And she also collaborated with vocals in the title track, 2 Years of Grief. And it's a very interesting track. You'll be able to listen to it now, and it has like a poem, and it's a very nice collaboration I've done with Natalia. I'm pretty happy pretty glad, maybe it's a word, on the result that we've had with this collaboration. Her artwork is kind of like perfect for the mood of the music, for the type of music I do. So this album, it's the last one that talks about this last process of grief, and also about something that kind of good that happened to me. So my father passed away on January 2021, and about a year after, almost exactly a year after, on January 2022, I found out that I was going to be a father. And when I knew that it was going to be a boy, it was kind of like an immediate sign that I needed to name him after my father. I thought it was kind of like he was sending me some signal or something. So yeah, he's already 9 months old, and at that time I started to write music for that album, and the whole process, about talking about that, about having a son, about maintaining, I don't know, some part of him, through my son. Yeah, it explains that whole idea of having like characteristics of your parents in your children. It's kind of strange, but you kind of, when you're a father, you kind of realize that many things that you saw in your parents, you also see in your children. And I think that's not random. It has some sort of meaning, right? Also, it has to do with the way that we start to get old and realize that we're also gonna go. I mean, we're also gonna die at some point. It makes a lot of sense in that way. And that album, this album, 2 Years of Grief, it talks about that. Now let me go to the one previous to that one, which is called Stay With Me When You're Gone. This is a very nostalgic album. It has brilliant artwork. This one is done by an artist called Lenore Ani. Her brand is called AniArtworks, and it's just amazing. I mean, the artwork is fantastic. It's a 6-panel digipack. It has a CD. I mean, it has a whole thing about the CD has like a flower, and when you take it out, I mean, you can see that it doesn't have the flower anymore. It's really cool. Also comes with a booklet, so you can see the lyrics and everything. More artworks. It's really super nice. I'm very proud of the way that this album turned out. And also, this is the first album that I released under my own label called Tragedy Productions. So it's the first one, and it's very special to me. One of the songs, the first one, A Time I Was Loved, it kind of talks about the things like at that point I was thinking about when I was a kid and everything was kind of perfect, and I mean, there were no real problems, at least not in my mind, I wasn't aware of them. And in the first song, in that song, I mean, it talks about that and how, I mean, there was a time where everything was right and was good, there were no concerns. And I found within my file some audio that I had when I was a kid, and I included it in the song. So when you listen to that kid that talks in the end of that first song, the song again is called A Time I Was Loved. That's me when I was like a baby. And I had like an airplane or something that I just received as a present. I was talking about that. So that's kind of like the idea of regressing, of going back to that place. It's a very nostalgic album. Okay, moving on. This is the album previous to that one. It's called Every Day a Funeral. It also has the artwork of Natalia Drepina. And inside the album you'll see also different artworks, flowers. And this is done by Lenore Ani too, AniArtworks. And it's very super cool. I mean, it has a booklet with artworks and everything, with the lyrics, like really cool stuff. You can see also like artwork here beneath the tray, it's super nice. And this talks about every day being a funeral. Waking up every day and remembering that person is gone, and then you need to accept it again and like go through the whole process, like every day waking up and right, that person's gone. I need to accept it, I need to move on, I need to go on with my day, do my stuff, etc. So it's kind of like you bury that person every day. So hence, every day funeral. That's kind of like the theme behind this album. There's also something important about this. This one was released by my friends in Meuse Music Records, and there's a digipack, but there's also a vinyl version, which I'll show you. Have it around. It's super cool. It's really nice. I'm really proud of this. This is the vinyl version. It's a gatefold. It's a single vinyl. The edition is super nice. Super cool. So it's the desk has also special artwork made especially for this particular album. It only comes in black vinyl. I don't think and it's heavy vinyl. I think 180 grams or something like that. And the format, it's a gatefold, also artworks, lyrics, everything. It looks super nice. It's a super nice edition. So moving on. Per Aspera ad Astra, this is the first album I wrote on the Grief series. This one, the story is, I mean, it brings me back to that time. Look, the artwork is fantastic too. The artwork was made by Augusto Peixoto. He's a Portuguese artist, super talented. Also, he made something special here. I mean, he made a booklet that has specific artworks for each song. I mean, it's fantastic. It's really cool. And the cover also, I mean, it's very powerful. You know? So the song Per Aspera ad Astra and the album, why did I call it like that? Well, this song and this album, I wrote it immediately after my father passed away. So it was the lockup and everything, and things were rough, you know. I mean, you couldn't go out. There was like a maximum amount of people that could be on the funeral, and okay, we did the whole ceremony and then came back, and to lockup we couldn't go out to the streets or anything. So what I did is that I went that weekend on my studio and I wrote the song Per Aspera ad Astra, which is basically what I felt at that point. And the name is called Per Aspera ad Astra, which means in Latin, it means something like through the hardship to the stars. Because when I was reading my father's autobiography, it said in some moment that he always tried to live under that motto, you know, like always try to follow that, like try to put an effort to rise and not like win stuff out of the blue. And okay, so I thought it was like a good way to express that, I mean, in the album. So that's why it's called like that. This one, the CD was released by GS Productions. It's very hard to get this one. Copies are very limited, but now, I mean, just recently I got some stock. I have like a few, I have like 20 copies or something that are on the web page now for sale, but it's an album that's really hard to get. But there's also a vinyl version, and this one is very nice too, and which was done by my friends at Meuse Music Records. It has, I mean, this is something really special too. It's a double vinyl because it's a longer album, and it has the artwork of Augusto Peixoto. Again, black heavy vinyls with special artworks, and it has artwork space made especially for this edition. That's me. And also, I mean, some artworks, lyrics, and it's super nice too. It's good quality, and I mean, I own I know that some people buy vinyl, but they don't own like what do you call this thing where you play the vinyls? Turntable. Yeah, so I own a turntable, and I play both of these vinyls, and they sound fantastic. I mean, really, sometimes I kind of like, I'm surprised on the quality. And this brings me to another point. For these albums, I've worked with a producer, really great guy. He's called Filippos Koliopanos, and he also has a band called Ocean of Grief, which is pretty well known in the doom scene. Yeah, it's a great band, but he's a great producer too. And I mean, the sound quality that we've we've been able to achieve album after album and the improvement. I mean, it's really been amazing. For the last albums, I also worked, the last 3, I worked with a drummer, with a live drummer called Emidio Alexandre Ramos. He's from Portugal, and he's also a very talented person. And he knew exactly how to put, that rhythm section in the album. I think it makes a very big difference, and I'm pretty glad with that result too. Okay, so moving on. That's the Grief series. It starts with, again, Per Aspera, Ad Astra, moves to Everyday, A Funeral, then you have Stay With Me When You're Gone, and it ends with 2 Years of Grief. So I think, it's been a long process, and I feel like I need to take a break. I'm feeling a bit tired. It's been a hard couple of years. Now it's a little more time. It's not 2 years, it's a little more. And that those wounds are open still. They never fully heal, I guess. I've discussed this with a lot of people, because a lot of people that listen to this music have told me about their own loss. And everybody's losing someone at some point of their lives. There's people that have lost their parents decades ago and still feel pain because of that. I guess it's time to put an end to the series, close the subject, and I think with my son being born and writing this album about that particular experience, a good way to close the project. So I'll be focusing now on my other stuff, Winds of Tragedy, that band, and my new band called My Dearest Wound, which is kind of depressive black metal too, but you'll see. It's not public yet, but there's gonna be material out. And also my label, Tragedy Productions, that's moving on so fast, and there's a lot of interest and bands which I'm working with. It's been kind of amazing. But before that, let me just speak a little bit about the other albums I have, not on the Grief series. This album is a fantastic album. It's called Let Me Drown With You. Fantastic for me. It's kind of weird, but I listen a lot to my own music, which I guess is a good sign. And I listen to this album a lot. I really like it. This is artwork, made by Gogo Melone. You all know her. She's super well known. She has her band, Ion and Sorrow, and she's a pretty well known artist. Super talented too. And she made this cover for this album. There's a confusion here because people believe that this is the first one behind the Grief series. And it's not, because I wrote this album while my father was still alive. The thing is that when I was about to release it, he passed away. So when I released the album, I kind of dedicated it to him. But it wasn't that I wrote it because of his death. And it actually talks about other stuff. It talks about depression, about death, it talks about transcending, it talks about love in some way. And it's kind of like a story that's very based on stuff like Romeo and Juliet type of stuff, or Tristan and Isolde type of stuff. And there's actually here a song called Liebestod, which is like love death. I think it's the main song of this album. It's based on that story, on the Tristan and Isolde story, where they both die to accomplish their love. So that's the story. Then there's this other one. This is my second album. It's called Death Will Not Keep Us Apart, and this one is an album that I wrote when I was away from my loved ones, and I had a particular dream that tells the dream is told throughout the album. So it's kind of if you see the album, you'll see the story. It has a booklet, also artwork by Gogo Melone. Look at this cover. This is fantastic cover. Really nice 12-page booklet. This one was released by DS Productions. Yeah, this is a very very special album to me too, because it's kind of like the first really serious work I did. The story is pretty cool. You can find about it. I mean, in the actual CD or in Bandcamp, you can look up the story. And then I have a couple of EPs. This one is called "In the Grave of a Forgotten Soul," and this one is called "A Cold Embrace from Life." The subjects around this are very deep subjects, times of bad times, depressive times in my life. I wrote stuff about that too. I don't want to get into too much detail because that's kind of over now, but A Cold Embrace from Life, I think it's one of the hardest part of my life. It was a moment where we were trying with my wife to have kids, and things, let me just say, that didn't go as we planned, and it was very hard for a long time. It was very difficult for a long time. Things happened, and yeah, I mean, I wrote it during that time. In any case, it's if you hear this album, if you listen to it and the songs, you'll notice. I mean, it has sort of an aggression. You can feel it. I mean, when I listen to it, I can feel it at least. It's a very interesting album. I'm really really glad with this result too. So that's it. Those are my albums. Let me just say that I think for the first time, I think this is the first time I have all the CDs in stock, and you can get them in Bandcamp, in my Bandcamp. There's also a European store from Meuse Music Records, and they're also in some bistros. Ardua Music, I think, has some copies of the vinyls of the CDs. But this is actually the first time that I have everything in stock and ready to send. So I'm gonna put a couple of bundles to offer, like the Grief series and things like that. But I'm not sure how long that's gonna last, because this albums, Let Me Drown With You, Death Will Not Keep Us Apart. I mean, I ran out of stock very quickly, and I need to order again. But since I'm in Chile, it's not easy for me to have everything in stock. So, I mean, right now it's a good time, if you're interested in this, to get those CDs, because I'm sure they will run out soon, and everything's available now. So I just want to say thank you if you stayed this far, if you listen to all my music and follow the project, which has been a short time for a lot of albums, people say, but it's been therapeutic. It's helped me a lot with my mental health. I think it's been better than therapy. Things have been very difficult, like everyone has problems, everyone. But this is the way I dealt with them, and now I feel like I can move on to other projects. And I'm really proud of the result, and I really thank everyone around that listened to my music and wrote to me messages, reviewed, played it on the radio. I mean, I really appreciate every effort, and I'm kind of amazed on the attention it has received. I wasn't expecting this. I just wrote stuff because it sounded good, but I also wanted to do something good. I wanted to work with good people, good artists, good musicians, and business partners, and I think I've been able to do that. So I really thank everyone for walking with me through this path and journey, and it's been thrilling. And I mean, the albums are still gonna be there, hopefully for a long time, and you can always go back to them, and I can always go back to them. So I feel kind of glad and relieved that, I mean, at least that thing I did right, at least that thing I can feel proud of, and look back and say, okay, I did this. This was a good project, and it was, at least in my mind, very successful. So thank you everyone, and I hope to see you again soon, but now with maybe different type of project or music. I'm not ending my stuff as a musician or as a you know, with the label or supporting artists. On the contrary, I expect to do a lot more stuff now. So you'll hear from me again very soon, hopefully. So thank you. Goodbye.